Hello and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shuja and these are the headlines. The Taliban have welcomed the United States announcement of troops withdrawal from Afghanistan. Taliban spokesperson Dr. Mohammed Naim said that the move is a practical step under the Doha Accord. Meanwhile, the Afghan government says 13 policemen were killed in a Taliban attack in the Herat province. The group has yet to claim responsibility. The European Union has sanctioned recently appointed Syrian Foreign Minister Faisal Miqdad. The Kurds have frozen assets of Miqdad and imposed travel ban. The move takes the number of sanctioned officials and allies of President Bashar al-Assad to 289. Germany's Christian Democrat Union will elect a new chairman today. The new CDU leader will be the one elected by 1,001 delegates in an online congress. The Christian conservative leader will succeed Angela Merkel as the chancellor when she steps down after federal elections in September. In France, death toll from the coronavirus has surpassed 70,000, while the infections have surged to 2.93 million. COVID-19 fatalities in the United States are nearing 392,000, while over 23.5 million people have tested positive so far. Pakistan has registered over 2,400 cases and 45 fatalities overnight as the death toll tops 10,900. Globally, the virus has claimed over 2 million lives and infected over 93.7 million people so far. And in cricket, South African cricket team has arrived in Pakistan for the first time in 14 years. The team, led by Quinton de Kock, reached Karachi after clearing COVID-19 tests before boarding the flight. The Pro Tees will play 2 tests and 3 T20 internationals in Pakistan. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. The Taliban have welcomed the United States announcement of troops withdrawal from Afghanistan. Taliban spokesperson Dr. Mohammed Naim said that the move is a practical step under the Doha Accord. He said that the Taliban are committed to their commitments in the agreement and demand the same from the other side. Meanwhile, the Afghan government says 13 policemen were killed in a Taliban attack in the Herat province. Police said that the attackers took the weapons of the security officials with them following the attack. The Taliban have yet to comment on the government's claim. Meanwhile, 3 policemen have been killed and 3 others wounded in 2 explosions in Kabul and Baghlan provinces. An explosion also occurred near an Afghan forces facility in the Kandahar province. The Hong Kong government has called the latest sanctions imposed by the United States against 6 officials insane, shameless, and despicable. The government calls the report biased, politically motivated, and not reflecting the truth. The government added that it fully supports Beijing in adopting appropriate countermeasures in response to the sanctions. The United States earlier announced sanctions on 6 Hong Kong officials over mass arrests of pro-democracy activists in the city. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has also directed its administration to minimize procurement of Chinese goods and services. Trump's national security advisor Robert O'Brien said that the sanctions on procurement will reduce the risks from espionage. The United States has told India that it is unlikely to get a waiver on its planned acquisition of Russian S-400 air defense systems. The warning significantly raises risks of similar sanctions on India as the United States imposed on Turkey for buying the same defense system from Russia. Diplomatic sources say the Trump administration has told India to scrap the $5 billion deal and avoid a diplomatic crisis with Washington. It maintains that New Delhi did not have a wide waiver from the 2017 U.S. law aimed at deterring countries from buying Russian military hardware. Experts say the position of the United States is unlikely to change in the near future, as Biden has promised a tougher approach towards Russia. In India, a leader of protesting farmers has rejected National Investigation Agency's summon to appear before it on the 17th of January. Baldev Singh Sirsa said that the government is using Supreme Court and the National Investigation Agency to sabotage the farmers' agitation. The union president also accused the center of trying to derail the farmers' protest. It comes a day after the 9th round of talks between farmers and the government ended without making any breakthrough. But the two sides agreed to meet again next week. Since November, thousands of farmers have been camping at the Delhi borders, demanding the government roll back the farm laws. Nearly 80 farmers have died during the protests. Kashmiri activist Mushtaq Malik has called on the international community to hold New Delhi responsible for violating the Geneva Conventions. In a video message, Malik said that the Indian forces have filed fabricated cases against her husband, who is a peaceful political leader. She said that the Indian occupation forces are physically and mentally torturing Yasin Malik in the Tihar death cell. Mushtaq said that Yasin Malik is not being provided proper health care while his health in the death cell is deteriorating continuously. She called on the world to declare Yasin Malik as the prisoner of conscience and a protected personality, because if India eliminates the Kashmiri leadership, peace in the South Asia, which is the deadliest nuclear flashpoint, will never be achieved.
I appeal to the world to please save my husband, Mohammad Yasin Malik, who is the peaceful political leader of this entire freedom struggle against Indian occupation. And right now, to break his resolve, they have locked him up in Tihar death cell, and they have filed fake, fabricated cases against him to charge him without any crime that he's committed. And right now, in this death cell, he's being physically and mentally tortured without any medical care, and his health is very fragile.
NATO says it is open for transparency and risk reduction dialogue with Russia over its withdrawal from the Open Skies Treaty. NATO's deputy spokesperson Piers Kazlet said that the organization's allies are consulting closely on the future of arms control. He said that Russia's selective implementation of its obligations under the treaty has undermined the security and stability in the Euro-Atlantic region. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom and France have also urged Russia to reconsider its decision to pull out from the treaty on open skies. Yesterday, Russia announced its exit from the treaty, while the United States has already withdrawn from the pact in November of last year. The European Union has sanctioned Syria's top diplomat Faisal Miqdad. In a statement, the European Council said that it added that Miqdad to the list in light of his recent appointment as the Minister of Foreign Affairs. It said that the relevant legal acts, including the names of the person concerned, have been published in the EU's official journal. The Council said that it keeps developments in the Syrian conflict under constant review, but it said that the bloc remains committed to finding a lasting and credible political solution to the conflict on the basis of UN Security Council resolutions. The move takes the number of sanctioned officials and allies of President Bashar al-Assad to 289. The United States Defense Department has announced to include Israel in the area covered by its Middle East-focused Central Command. It said that the Abraham Accords have provided strategic opportunity for the United States to align key partners against shared threats in the Middle East. In a statement, the department said that the move will open up additional opportunities for Tel Aviv's cooperation with CENTCOM partners. It said Washington structure boundaries to best mitigate the risk and protect U.S. interests and partners. The department said that the strong cooperation between Israel and Washington European allies under the Euro Command will also be maintained. United States President Donald Trump has received Morocco's highest award for his work in advancing the country's normalization deal with Israel. White House senior advisor Jared Kushner and Middle East envoy Elvi Berkowitz received other awards for their work on the deal. The award was given to Trump by Morocco's ambassador to the United States, Princess Lala Yulma Aloui, in the private ceremony. It was a gift from Morocco's King Mohammed and is awarded to only the heads of state. Washington in the last 5 months helped broker deals between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco. The agreements are aimed at normalizing relations and opening economic ties. In the United States, officials are implementing unprecedented security measures ahead of President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. This comes amid warnings of possible armed demonstrations by President Donald Trump's supporters. The ceremony will be the most secured after President Abraham Lincoln's swearing in. Officials have announced deployment of around 25,000 troops to secure the event. FBI, Homeland Security, and other security departments have also stepped up their presence. President Donald Trump has already approved an emergency declaration for Washington to last through the 24th of January. Bridges leading into the city along with vehicular traffic will remain suspended from today. The inauguration festivities will be broadly downsized as the country still struggles to contain the deadly pandemic. In France, death toll from the coronavirus has surpassed 70,000 while the infection surged to 2.93 million. Globally, the virus has claimed over 2 million lives and infected over 93.7 million people so far. More on the coronavirus pandemic in this report.
The world has hit the grim milestone of 2 million COVID-19 deaths, with the US, Brazil, India, Mexico, and the UK contributing almost 50% of the fatalities. Brazil's Amazon region is racing to save dozens of premature babies after the latest spike caused catastrophic breakdown in oxygen supply to hospitals. Brazil's president said a plane will be sent to India to pick up COVID-19 vaccines in 2 or 3 days at the most. The U.S. death tally is nearing 392,000, while over 23.5 million people have tested positive so far. Meanwhile, inoculation drive in the U.S. continues, hitting snags as vaccine shortages prompted large healthcare systems to cancel hundreds of vaccination appointments. Several U.S. states have accused federal government of deception for pledging to distribute millions of vaccine from a stockpile that officials say does not even exist.
The Trump administration said they were going to expedite the second dosage, if you remember. And rather than holding back the second dose supply, they would send the second dose, and that would increase a state's supply. It turns out that that was not true. They had already sent out everything they had. So there was no increase in supply.
Meanwhile, Iceland has genetically sequenced all its positive COVID-19 cases since the coronavirus pandemic began, as World Health Organization has called increase in efforts to study viruses sequencing and worldwide acceleration in vaccine rollouts. The UK has tightened its border controls to block new variants of COVID-19, suspending all travel corridor arrangements.
We must take additional steps now to stop those strains from entering the country. So yesterday, we announced that we're banning flights from South America and Portugal, and to protect us against the risk of as yet unidentified new strains, we will also temporarily close all travel corridors from 0400 hours on Monday.
Australia's opposition has accused government of abandoning 40,000 Australians stranded overseas after Emirates airline abruptly suspended flights. While South Korea has extended its current social distancing rules for 2 more weeks, 2 of the largest bases of U.S. forces in Korea have also imposed a shelter-in-place order after the cluster of infections. Meanwhile, India's inoculation drive is set to begin today to vaccinate over 30 million of its frontline workers.
While in Pakistan, 45 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. This takes the country's death toll to over 10,908. Health officials report that 2,432 new infections overnight. Meanwhile, more than 33,000 active COVID-19 cases have been detected in the country. The health ministry says out of over 516,000 countrywide cases, more than 472,000 people have recovered. The ministry said over 233,000 cases have been detected in the province of Sindh, while the Punjab has reported nearly 148,000 cases so far. The historic winter summit of K2 is underway by a Nepali team. K2 is the last of the 14 8,000-meter peaks not summited in winter. Earlier, the Nepali Sherpas broke the previous record during the winters of climbing as high as 26,000 feet while attempting to scale K2. According to the mountaineers, the maximum height achieved by the teams in the winters in the past was 25,320 feet. Meanwhile, their fifth climbing partner, Sona Sherpa, turned back as he was evacuated to the base camp due to a serious head injury as well as an eye injury. 13 of the world's 14 peaks have climbed in winter, but K2, the world's second tallest peak that straddles Pakistan and China, remains unclimbed. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Hamas has welcomed Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas' announcement to hold legislative and presidential elections in Palestine. In a statement, Hamas said that it affirms its extreme knees to make its entitlement a success in the interest of the Palestinian people. It said that the Palestinian people have the absolute right to choose their leadership and representatives. Earlier, Abbas issued a presidential decree to hold the legislative elections on the 22nd of May and the presidential elections on the 31st of July 2021. The decree calls for launching an election process in all cities of the homeland, referring to the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. Palestinians' last parliamentary ballot in 2006 resulted in a surprise win by Hamas. Germany's Christian Democratic Union will elect a new chairman today. A close race is expected as Europe's biggest economy chooses its future leadership. The new CDU leader will be elected by 1,001 delegates in an online congress. The Christian conservative leader will succeed Angela Merkel as chancellor when she steps down after the federal elections in September. The leader is usually the chancellor candidate for CDU's union with its Bavarian sister party and the Christian Social Union. Centrist Armin Laschet and arch-conservative Friedrich Merz and foreign policy expert Norbert Röttgen are in the race for the CDU leadership. Merkel pledged not to run again after becoming Europe's predominant leader since taking office in 2005. In Chile, hundreds of anti-government protesters hit the streets of the capital, Santiago, calling for an end to inequality. Police in riot gear used water cannons and tear gas to disperse the demonstrators. The demonstrators called for reforms to existing pension, healthcare, and education systems. The South American country has seen protests against stark inequality for over a year now. Chileans voted in the favor of a new charter to replace the country's Pinochet-era constitution in late last October. Raging wildfires have forced thousands of people to evacuate their homes in Chile's Valparaiso region. According to authorities, the wildfires were started deliberately. Officials said that at least 10 properties were engulfed by fires sweeping through the forest area near the Quilpé city, but no deaths or injuries were reported. The fires blazed through 400 hectares of forests. Authorities ordered evacuation of around 25,000 residents, deploying hundreds of firefighters. The Interior Minister Rodrigo Delgado urged residents to evacuate.
I know that for people, their property is of extreme importance. I know that for people, it is very difficult to abandon your belongings and your property. But the call from the government is that the lives of people come first.
The death toll from the earthquake in Indonesia's Sulawesi Island has risen to 45 as a powerful 5.0 magnitude aftershock also hit the region. The local disaster mitigation agency said over 820 people have been injured and about 15,000 have been evacuated. It said that the search for victims who may still be trapped under the rubble is ongoing. The agency has warned of another quake that can reach the magnitude of 7, urging the residents to keep out of the waters. The United States Geological Survey said that the quake's epicenter was in West Sulawesi province at the depth of 18 kilometers. Yesterday's tremor leveled a hospital and damaged severely other buildings. WhatsApp has delayed the implementation of its new privacy policy by 3 months. This comes after millions of its users started to move to rival platforms such as Telegram and Signal. The Facebook-owned company said no one will have their account suspended or deleted on the 8th of February. The company said that it will do more to clear up the misinformation around how privacy and security works on WhatsApp. It has clarified that the update does not affect personal data sharing with Facebook and only addresses businesses' chats. The delayed policy change was originally scheduled to come into effect on the 8th of February. In Hungary, a woman colloquially known as the Teddy Bear Mama has a collection of thousands of teddy bears. As Hungary tightens COVID-19 restrictions, the teddy bears await in the warehouse to bring joy to the local children in local nurseries. More in this report.
In a small village in eastern Hungary, more than 20,000 teddy bears are hibernating in a warehouse as they wait for the pandemic regulations to end.
I give away teddy bears to nurseries, preschools, and poor families. I also organize exhibitions for children institutions, a kind of therapeutic teddy bear corner with about 30 to 50 bears, with which children can play. These are very sweet little exhibits, but unfortunately, because of the virus situation now, I cannot arrange these exhibitions anymore.
Valeria Schmidt, a 62-year-old woman, looks after her precious collection of bears amid the resurgence of coronavirus. Schmidt is the mother of 4 children and has been collecting teddy bears for the past 40 years. Her passion for the bears stems from her childhood traumas when she suffered heavily at the hands of her parents' divorce, her mother's addiction, and poverty. After a troubled childhood, the Hungarian collector hugs and strokes her teddies many times a day. She believes that teddy bears have cured her soul.
Now these teddy bears have made up for all the hunger, all the lack of love, lack of toys and everything. Especially when I see children coming to see my exhibition and I see the joy and happiness in their eyes, that gives me a compensation for everything. So the wounds of my childhood have healed.
Valeria Schmidt entered the Guinness Book of World Records in 2019 for the world's largest collection of teddy bears.
India's trade deficit in goods widened to over $15 billion in December as imports rose to over $42 billion. According to the government data, the deficit resulted from a surge in gold imports, while merchandise exports were up marginally. The merchandise trade deficit was over $12 billion in December last year. Meanwhile, the merchandise export rose 0.14% in December from a year earlier to over $27 billion. Iraq has reaffirmed its commitment to the decision of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries to reduce output. In a statement, Iraq's oil minister said Baghdad will not negotiate with OPEC Plus members for its oil production share. At the height of the last year's coronavirus outbreak, OPEC Plus decided to cut output by a record 9.7 million barrels per day. Meanwhile, more recently, Saudi Arabia has announced to unilaterally cut 1 million barrels a day of crude oil production. In cricket, South African cricket team have arrived in Pakistan for the first time in 14 years. The Proteas will play 2 Test and 3 T20 internationals in Pakistan. The team, led by Quinton de Kock, reached Karachi after clearing COVID-19 tests before boarding the flight. The 27-member squad will also be tested for COVID-19 in Pakistan ahead of the series. The players will stay in individual isolation until the results of the first round of testing are released. The first test is scheduled to start from the 26th of January at the National Stadium in Karachi. Meanwhile, cricket's South Africa will name T20 squad later, with specialists due to arrive in Pakistan on the 3rd of February. Moving on to Brisbane, where rain has delayed a post-tea play on second day of the fourth test between India and Australia. The visitors were 62 for 2 at tea, trailing the hosts by 307 runs. India lost opener Shubman Gill early in the innings to Pat Cummins. Rohit Sharma scored 44 runs before being taken by Nathan Lyon. Chestwar Pujara and skipper Anjikia and Rahane were at the crease before rain stopped the play. Earlier, the Kangaroos posted a 369 run on the board before being bowled out in their first innings. In sailing, Eno's team United Kingdom continue their winning streak at America's Cup Challenger Series in Auckland. Ben Ansley's side secured a dominant win over American Magic in the first race of second round-robin meetings. Britannia finished 4 minutes and 59 seconds faster than American Magic's Patriot in difficult conditions. They now lead the Prada Cup Series with a 3-0 record. Earlier in the day, American Magic failed to finish a race against Italy's Luna Rossa, who won their first point. Luna Rossa face Eno's team United Kingdom in tomorrow's opening race and then take on American Magic to conclude the second round-robin meetings. The third round-robin races will begin on the 22nd of January. Renowned rapper Pitbull has become a part of the Trackhouse Racing team's ownership group. This comes ahead of the team's NASCAR Cup Series debut season. Armando Christian Perez, known as Pitbull, made the announcement on his 40th birthday. In a tweet, Pitbull said that this was a long time coming as a NASCAR fan since the 1990s movie Days of Thunder. Pitbull has become another high-profile name to enter NASCAR after basketball great Michael Jordan. Trackhouse will debut in a Chevrolet Camaro driven by lone Mexican-born driver Daniel Suarez at the Daytona 500 on the 14th of February.